And all of the top-minded people are kind of already heavily discussing about. So we may be, I don't know, but we may be the first one to talk about this topic related to crypto on stage. So hopefully we could explore something interesting out of it. So maybe Owen and Fenix, maybe you guys can do a quick self-introduction to the audience.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. Hi, Alan. Hi, Fenix. So for people who don't know, my name is Owen, and I'm the CEO of Sudorandom Labs. We write code and contribute to the SudoSwap protocol, which is an AMM protocol for NFTs. I'm excited to be here and talk about things for NFTs moving forward. Alan and I talked a bit about how ChatGPT really took the world by storm, so it'll be exciting to maybe dive a little bit into what that means for blockchain or NFT creation. And yeah, really excited to be here today.
Okay, hi everyone, good morning. My name is Fenix. So first of all, yesterday we have like 6 side events and party through the midnight, so all of you can be here. You guys are conference warriors, yeah. And the reason I'm here is last month I met with Jackie, one of the Bu Zhi DAO's co-founder, in Hawaii. It's one of my friend's wedding, and he was like, hey, do you want to sponsor this event? And we have this cool conference coming in Taiwan. And I'm like, okay, sure. Yeah, that was before FTX. So we are we're not even there. We are bronze sponsor. And when we decide to wire the funds and the FTX happened, and so I'm sitting here to be a cautionary tales. Yeah, that's why I'm here.
So maybe we can start with how do you guys started with your journey in the first place? With building SudoSwap, Teahouse, or how you get into crypto?
Oh man, okay. So I first got involved in late 2017. So for everyone who was here then, last cycle, very exciting times, large run-up, did some hackathons, and then, things really kind of fell apart soon after January 2018. So I did some building then. I have a computer science background, so lots of coding stuff. And then I went and ended up doing some AI related things for a bit. And then it wasn't until 2020 when DeFi Summer came around, I had a friend who told me about Wire and was like, hey, you should go check this out. I was like, wow, the space has changed a lot since I poked around with it. There are so many interesting things you can do with respect to DeFi. That got me really excited and wanting to build something. So I ended up building this AI-generated NFT project. So that ended up being the 0x months NFT. And then from there, people in the community wanted to do things like trade their assets with each other. And that was how the first version of SudoSwap was built. And then after that, I was thinking about NFT liquidity. And then that's how the protocol that exists today came to be.
Okay, so the last cycle was pretty exciting. Many people made a couple millions, and yeah, so was I. And we built Teahouse Finance to help people manage their asset on chain, because the reason which seems pretty obvious right now. So we built the DeFi protocol which help to provide AMMs. We are the professionals at Uniswap V3 to provide the active AMMs to help people manage their liquidities. And we help institutions, product owner to manage their liquidity on-chain. So everything's not on-chain seems like it's not yours anymore. So basically that's what I do. And yeah, and people know us from helping people launch their NFT by this year, in the early this year, because we tend to know how to do with the tokens and tokenomics and all those smart contracts. And yeah, so Teahouse, we help people launch their project, help them manage their liquidity. That's basically what we do. Yeah.
Let's talk about last year specifically, because last year, for both of you, I think you guys both did a lot. But I maybe backtrack a little bit too. I remember 0xMon actually used GPT-3. Is that correct, or?
Yeah. So hopefully we'll be able to talk a bit more about how AI enables different types of content creation. But this was when GPT-3 had just come out, so it was early access at that point. And I had a friend who, I guess, like knew some people at OpenAI or something, so he had access to it. And I was like, wow, it's really crazy how coherent and how imaginative a lot of these prompts can be. And I was thinking about how to do something that had this sort of storytelling behind it. And a lot of like generative NFT at that point made it very difficult to do things like get very novel types of stories, right? You can maybe tweak a lot of like the colors and the gradients. So for visual stuff, it's very strong. But for this type of story, language-based generation, it's very difficult to do in a lot of the normal cases with just like an on-chain algorithm. So I basically asked my friend who had access. I was like, hey, I have these prompts, and I want to get these different descriptions. Can you help me with that? So he took the prompts that I had, fed them to the API, and then I edited and then sort of put those together. And those ended up being like a lot of the descriptions that are actually used for the NFT. So I think that this sort of stuff is being driven to be a lot stronger now that we have these really, really accessible tools. And I think that from like improving the imaginative aspect, I think that it's easier than ever for people to get started.
Cool, and let's quickly talk about for regarding to 2022. But I believe that by doing this collection-wise, you recognize some of the tools that you can build. And you wrote NFT AMM paper, or?
Oh, I guess that's a separate area where I was previously like a contributor at NFTX, which is another great NFT liquidity protocol, but that focuses on leveraging existing AMMs. And a lot of my thinking was, it seems like sometimes people might just want to deposit like NFTs to swap for tokens, or tokens to swap for NFTs, or they might have like more bespoke considerations for their pricing. Maybe there's like a more customizable protocol that can deliver that. And that was how I wrote this like very short paper. It's kind of joking. It's like 7 pages and like half of it is footnotes. And that ended up being the sort of main idea that I ran with, and that's what we used to sort of base the protocol on.
And the Sudoswap marketplace launched around July last year?
This year, 2022.
This year, this year. Yeah.
Yeah, so talk about last year, right? Last year was pretty exciting. Yeah. Because that's when the Uniswap launched the V3. Before Uniswap V3, people know about DeFi. It's about there's a pool, there's a pair of trading pairs, and we just stake money in, we get reward, and we sell it. In Chinese, it's called 挖题卖. It's DeFi. And we feel like it's lack of intelligence in this process until the Uniswap introduced their V3, where you can set up the range of your liquidity, like what you do here. And then the liquidity provision becomes way too hard. It becomes like a competition between all the liquidity managers. That's where Teahouse decided to come into the DeFi space, because we believe that whoever can provide the most precise, most active, or most reasonable hedge liquidity position can win the most fee from the Uniswap or other swaps. So last year was pretty exciting. So we developed so many like models in statistical model, or even use the AI. We're not there to say we are the game winner or we are winning, but we're definitely winning compared to all other Uniswap positions. But I would say it was all like manpower's sweat and tears in my office.
Nice.
Yeah. So pretty much we're doing that. Yeah.
So I think this year you also did a lot as well. I think you launched your NFT collection too? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, NFT from Teahouse is like we are the gated NFT as a utility in our asset management. So you have to have our NFT, so you have our member. So you become our member to use the platform. And we also help the other team launch their NFT, like Zombie Club, like Elysians, and the other like Zoo Friends. I love them all. I collect all of them. So we use NFT as a utility to come into our DeFi protocol, and also to become to redeem the offline tickets to all of the events. We have small events like dinner, party, everything. So it's pretty cool to see the NFT to have so many utility we can play around with. The Teahouse is a place to play around with everything. So this year we're NFT. The next year we're gonna do a bunch of games. We're gonna publish a lot of games with the NFTs.
We'll have to talk more about that. That probably more relating to 2023. But just out of curiosity too, out of this year wise, what impressed you about from other projects? Hey, you think is really important in regards to NFT from this year?
There's tons of things to talk about, the previous
so many things, yeah.
From YouTube,
Feels like decades.
About the digitals, you can redeem things from the physical space and the metaverse. But I think the main point is why do we need the NFTs? We want to facilitate more trades. If you just issue an NFT to a person and you don't encourage them to trade, then why do an NFT? Because the token and the blockchain itself is to facilitate trade. It's a ledger after all. So we want to have more use case to help people trade their utilities. For instance, NBA tickets, Super Bowl tickets. I think tickets should be a really good use case as NFTs, because if you can trade tickets, then the conference or the event holder himself will get the license fee from people trading it. So that will kill the second-hand, or they will encourage second-hand or third-hand trading. So basically, I'm looking forward to that. But I think you get NFTs, you guys should have something to say, right?
Yeah, I think that honestly, the biggest shift this year for me is probably seeing a lot of the more, I don't know what the right word for it is, corporatization, or a lot of NFT projects doing raises, right?
Yeah.
Where I think maybe last year projects are sort of we have the collection, we'll see what the community does. Maybe there's a treasury from the sale. But now I think projects really leaning into the strength of the IP, doing a raise for, they're not just selling the NFTs, it's a raise for something a bit more nebulous, right? Maybe it's the company behind the NFT. So I think it's been really cool to see companies that are, basically Web3 native spring up from this and then push for adoption of the underlying brand, whether this is through, really direct partnerships, or for, as Fenix talked about, certain types of redeemable merch. And then I think the proliferation of this it's I think definitely a lot more than I would have expected. I was at a bar last night where there was a mutant ape sign and there were punks on the wall. So definitely, I think definitely the culture and the corporate side got a lot stronger.
Mainstream in a certain way, a lot more. Let's talk about 2023. And I think, 2023, it could be the Q1 2023 and Q4 2023 would definitely be extremely different. But I'm kind of really curious about what we all thought might happen, or what you think would be a good tool to build. I actually, Fenix, I think you mentioned you're building a new game internally.
Yes.
That sounds really exciting.
Yeah, so 2023 should be all about blockchain games. So people project owner who received the money 2 years ago should be able to deliver something in 2023, right? And 2023 is the time we expect the bull market to come back, right? Because the 2024 will be another half for Bitcoin. So we expect that happens by the end of the 2023. There was gonna be a bull market, and people will deliver their new games. There were promising games, we heard all about good news about it. So basically, if you want to catch a narrative about how blockchain games bring in more new users into the space, so as a VC or as a project owner, you might want to start to see if there's a marketplace for new games. So basically in Teahouse, we want to build a game to utilize blockchain. The game we're building is inspired by a comic book called Hunter x Hunter. This is what it knows. 猎人. There's a game, the card trading game in 猎人 is called Greed Island. It's pretty much you can
贪婪之岛好像
yeah, 贪婪之岛 and pretty much you can just like build it on blockchain to make sense because all the specific card has a limited number and this number has to be governed by blockchain. Otherwise, the game issuer can just they got tons of it, like what we know the recent things. So basically, what we do is like we sold a card deck, and every revenue we get, the money goes into a jetpack, which is also governed by the blockchain. So whoever collects 100 cards, which is specific card, you get a jetpack. And all the gameplay is all about steal people's card or snatch people's card or defending your card. So if you want to cast a card's ability, you want to use your magic power, which is an in-game token. So you can actually build a tokenomics between your cards, which is an NFT, and your power, which is an in-game token. So that's basically we want to realize in 2023.
The game sounds really exciting and really promising, and I'm really like fascinated with the idea that you're actually doing internal game development right now. Can you like, what motivated you to do that in the first place?
So basically, we want to provide a blockchain solution to the game developer. Like we are not going to build a game itself. Like we're not gonna do the art. We're not gonna do the gameplays. But we want to be able to have a structured product or a mechanism to help the game developer sell the card deck or sell the loot box, which is governed by blockchain and it's ruffled by Chainlink, something like that. And once the NFT is issued, so the game operator will operate the game themselves. So the Teahouse will provide the blockchain part. We don't like the idea like the entire game should be on-chain. But we like the idea that should be some of the asset must be on-chain. For example, like the case, the jetpack should be on-chain. And the number of cards should be on-chain.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So, Owen, I think Sudoswap has become one of the most valuable marketplaces in the last few months. Would love to like for you to share like your own thoughts and maybe your perspective about next year.
Yeah, I think that moving forward, there's a few things that we want to focus on. Obviously, like the biggest elephant in the room is with respect to creator fee support. So it's like a big thing having on-chain enforcement for V2 and then thinking about ways to provide better spreads through like opt-in mechanisms for creators. So like a really obvious example of this, not saying that like this is like the method, but I think there are ways people can talk about that involve things like splitting trading fees or having liquidity requirements. Like, you're not gonna move the assets for some amount of time. So very akin to, like the sort of requirements that people have with market makers on like CXs, being able to codify this on chain, for certain types of NFT AMM pools. I think like gaming is definitely something that we want to see a lot more of, right? Like there's literally nothing else to do in the market right now. Right? This is like the perfect time to launch a game. Everyone's down bad. There's tons of time, right? Like, what else are you gonna do? So, also excited to see that. I think that with a lot of this, card game stuff is really cool. There's also been a lot of stuff for like roguelikes, dungeons. I think these are also places where multiplayer experiences make sense. You can have something that's a bit turn-based that follows how blockchains, process things sequentially. So, also really looking forward to those. Otherwise, I think that the main things that we're probably going to continue to see are like more types of like merch and real world collaborations, especially like, this year a bunch of projects have raised and they're going to be pushing things out in ways that, reach a larger audience. There's like Super Bowl ads, real stuff hitting toy shelves. So I think that, certain types of like commoditization with respect to NFTs is also going to be like a big thing for next year.
Great. Love to talk more, but let's talk about ChatGPT quickly. I think both of you actually play with it a little bit. I think Fenix, you were telling me that you were writing a love story between Trump and Tsai.
No, don't.
And I think Owen was telling me that he was writing about asking ChatGPT to describe Magic the Gathering in the style of Shakespeare. So I think, pretty cool. What were your initial impressions of it? Just kind of curious.
I'm not an expert in ChatGPT. I just play around with it like most of you.
I just 2 weeks though.
Yeah, right? I play way too much. Yeah, I just love them to write novel and just copy paste all my like high school exam sheet and help and ask him to solve it. I think
did it solve it?
Yeah, it's actually pretty good.
What question did you ask?
Especially Chinese one, because Chinese one is just so hard. Like, it's like which sentence is meaning something like that, and it's multiple choice like so hard. I pretty much failed every Chinese exam when I was high school. Yeah. So basically, I asked them to solve it, and it's like they're pretty good. Yeah.
Nice. How about you?
Yeah, I assume that hopefully most of the people in the room have played around or have heard of it. I guess for anyone who doesn't know, it's a program by OpenAI. So it's hooked up to this large, very large machine learning model that they have, and it works like a super intelligent chatbot. So you can send it questions like, what should I do if I don't know where to go in Taipei? And maybe it'll give you like, oh, you should check out like these attractions. But you can also give it tasks like, here's the press release from the new Microsoft report. Is it bullish or bearish? And then you can get summaries of things from the article. It's very powerful for these types of tasks. One of the things that I think is really interesting about this is because this sort of model is so accessible now, you can get very coherent responses. And I think spam, or like this type of automated response, is going to become a lot more prevalent, right? It's going to be a lot harder to tell, what sort of people are providing like real or fake responses, across different types of networks. And this is really interesting because this is something that blockchain has been sort of dealing with already, right? Like people are already trying to figure out how to do like, telling which white papers are bullshit, or like figuring out, who's been sibling your protocol. And I think that a lot of the things that people have been talking about already, like proof of humanity or having certain types of like staking setups, can be really interesting because there might be analogies when we talk about how to deter spam now that it can be a lot higher quality.
Yeah. So you may wonder, like, this is a crypto conference. Why are we talking about ChatGPT? I think, at least from my perspective, I think this is gonna be relevant in 2020 next year. So yeah, I think both of you, like, we all kind of tried it before. So I think it's best not to underestimate it. So yeah, and maybe there'll be someone clever enough to figure out a way to do something along with it. So yeah.
Yeah, I asked ChatGPT to sell energy drink as Donald Trump. It's like, let's buy energy drink. Energy drink's American product, American dream, and let's make America great again. It's just like,
let's make it great again.
Yeah, you can really tell like he's actually doing his job to use the tone of a human to actually write in the paragraph. So you can actually use this to do so many things, like write a college application letter, all kind of stuff. So I'm pretty amazed, but I'm still wondering, like, so when does it happen before like we can use AI into blockchain? I think the thing I can come up with my mind is eventually there will be AI trading with AIs, because for all the money on blockchain, it's not money, it's signal, it's data. So basically, if you want to have a digital coin trading between AI box, that's where it happens. So all the AIs will be trading against each other. That's why I think with the AI cross the blockchain things.
Yeah. I do think it's good to also chat about, like, since we're in Taiwan, I believe both of you also have some people from Taiwan as well. Would love to, like, hey, what's your impression of, I guess, the talents here in general?
Oh, yeah. So for people who don't know, I can share a bit about our team at Sudorandom Labs. It's really small, but the designer that we work with, who did, like the purple logo, a lot of the graphics, is actually here in Taiwan. So I got to meet up with him. I have family here, so it was nice. I'm really glad. I haven't been back in like 7 years. So I'm really excited that this event happened. It lined up with my work schedule. So I was really glad to be here. I think that this is a really great venue. There's a lot of people here who I think are local as well. So I think like a lot of like the domestic interest is really strong, and I was just learning about some of the like recent like startup initiatives set up by I think like the owner of Taiwan and it's really cool seeing that there's like burgeoning startup scenes here, and really excited if the stuff that we do is interesting. Please talk to me afterwards. Love to see if there's ways to collaborate.
Yeah, I'm actually from here, so I don't know. I walk here, right? Yeah, and basically the advantage we have is like we do have a really really good talent compared to their salaries. Yeah, so basically like recently I joined a venture capital's talent pool because there's a lot of casualties in the recent layoff. Like there's a Telegram group is full of resumes and saying, hey, we are from Krakens, we're looking for jobs, something like that. And yeah, and they do, with that kind of salary and the compensation package in the North America, it's pretty hard to keep a company alive. So basically when I write an application or talking to a VC, I'm like, are we doing, especially during the bear market, we're trying to keep our run rate low and to keep the product alive. So basically I don't know how to say this in a really good way, but it's actually our advantage because we can utilize so many talents here to build a team and run 24 hours and actually to hold the product online.
And it's also good for the employees too, because you actually do something interesting, right?
Yeah, we're actually paying way above average salaries in Taiwan, and that's still really good compared to all the other companies.
Cool. So I think both of you also run really pretty good successful business. Like if you want to give some tips on maybe potential entrepreneurs down the stage on like, how you guys manage to do what you do, or
am I running a successful business? I don't know.
And you must have some secrets, or
just like when Teahouse was founded, we have a firm belief in several crypto is a really mass space. There's just tons of new things popping up every day. So it's pretty hard to keep your direction forward or keep in one direction. Teahouse only believes in, when I started with Teahouse, I talked to all my friends and all my people in Teahouse and says, we only believe in two things. One, we believe in Ethereum ecosystems. So we build all our products on Ethereum and its layer 2. And we forget all the other layer 1s. Yeah. And the other thing is we believe in on-chain. So we want everything as possibly to be on-chain. So you don't want to have too much CeFi introduced in your protocols, like oracles, all kind of stuff. So we want to build everything on-chain. So we keep that in mind and fight for 2-3 years, and it's been a tough journey, but we're doing okay. Yeah.
Great.
I think those are good principles. For us, I think that one thing that has been really helpful has been having mentors or people who've previously worked in industry. Definitely got so much help and advice from a lot of other people. So I think that having a group of people around you that you can trust with good advice is really important. And then also, there's often a time gap from when you first have the idea to when it goes live to when people start using it. And it's really important that, at the very end of the day, you have to be sort of the last person believing in yourself and the thing that you're working on, because results might not always come immediately. I like also the focus of, being very on-chain or decentralization focused. I think, having that makes it easier for people to build with or on top of you. So those are a lot of the principles that we have in mind. And then the one advice is definitely finding people who can be really helpful and sticking with them.
So I do want to leave some time for questions, but maybe one last question from what, I guess, statement do you want to make about 2023, or any lasting message you want to say to the audience?
I think it's going to be a lot wilder than anyone expects. I think that we're going to be seeing a much larger proliferation of creators. Right before this talk, we had freaking YouTube talking about adding support. So I think the amount of
exciting times.
Yeah, I think the amount of assets and things are definitely going to blow up. I think that tools for creation are becoming so much easier. So if you think that NFTs in some way are useful either for membership, engagement, if you think that there's any chance that this thesis is sort of reasonable, I think you should definitely expect to see a huge explosion moving into next year.
Yeah, I think we're still early. All of here, who knows how to use a MetaMask is a winner. It's been 3-4 years. We're still teaching people self-custodian is the only way to go. Not your key, not your token. We're still teaching people that. So keep doing that and teach people how important is DeFi and all the decentralization things, because that's what we believe in. Otherwise, you guys won't be here, right? So talking about the user interface and UI UX, I think that's a really hard job to solve. I don't know all the wallets and all kind of MetaMask, how they're gonna solve these usability problems. But in the meantime, we can only wait and use the cold wallet and the MetaMask to store our bag. And yeah, so keep reaching out to all the people and as a crypto ambassador to tell people how important it is holding your key and your token.
Cool. I think maybe we have time for one quick question. Anyone interested? Please don't be shy.
Thank you for the amazing panels. My question is, do you think crypto will go through mass adoption Web2 company come in like YouTube, or we'll have a few more wave of crypto native thing like DeFi, NFT, and then we just go mass adoption through ourselves? Because we definitely appreciate the Web2 company go in, but maybe that will slow down our crypto wonderland in some sense, because we will slowly to convince the Web2 to shift to Web3. And that's my question. How do you think the mass adoption will come?
I think it's a good question. So obviously, right, personally, I care a lot about Web3 native companies being there, maybe because of better value alignment. It's easier to, export or move your things, rather than Web2 projects, adopting just parts of it. But I think that sort of realistically, right, Web2 projects are the ones that have the most reach. So I think that if I were putting money on it, I'd just have to hedge and be okay, well, yeah, it seems like Web2 companies are probably going to reach a lot of users. Shout out to Polygon, who's here and doing some fucking incredible BD with, the largest brands in the space. And I think that, if you just look at volume from and activity from a lot of chains, that is where it's coming from. So in some ways, I feel for people in the space who are Web3 native, this is a really good motivation to think about how to improve some of these UX things, right? Like Fenix is saying, the normal wallet flow is still is very challenging, and I think there's a big area for how can we keep as much of this custodial or exporting principles that we care about and still make it easy to build apps that allow a lot more people to use.
Thank you. I think where do you want to?
Oh, so I want to add about this question is people need incentive to overcome this friction because we know like to learn about this crypto, there's a ton of friction to overcome, like I said about usability problems. But people need incentive. No matter it's the financial incentive or the gaming purpose, like people need incentive to overcome that. I remember when I learned about how to assemble my first personal PC is because like Diablo 2 is coming out. And no one's computer can be able to play Diablo 2 because you need to know how to put a video card into your desktop. So that's where you go to the market to learn how to buy a cheap second-hand video card to put into a desktop and play Diablo 2. So you need to have that drag like Diablo 2 to pull people into that market. That Diablo 2 just pretty much like create the entire market of assembling your own PC.
Great. So we need that Diablo 2 to be out. And I think Diablo 2 was like a rainmaker for that space. And I see some rainmakers that may be coming out for 2023. So I hope you guys can pay attention to these rainmakers that can make the whole space rain. So I want to thank you for the speakers. Thank you for the organizers. Thank you all for coming for this first panel of the day.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.